sort of ramble for a minute until I think we're good. And then I say, hello, folks, and welcome. I am your host, Eric Smith, and we're going to jump right into my favorite horror with author, blogger, teacher, I believe,
Yep.
Jessica Guess. Welcome.
Hello. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for being here. Um, let's see. So, are you currently teaching?
Yes, I am. Right now, I'm teaching. We started the spring semester last week. And yeah, I'm teaching mainly online right now, but yep. Mhm.
How's that going?
It's good. I can't complain. It's only the second week. I'm really thankful that I am, able to teach online, especially with everything that's going on right now. But yeah, my students seem pretty good. I'm hoping everything goes smoothly. I'm hoping that, I mean, I know there's always going to be some ups and downs here and there, especially with, once again, the pandemic and everything. But for the most part, everything's pretty good so far.
All right. What is it that you teach?
So I teach English composition.
Okay.
So it's mainly, usually it's the incoming freshman, but it's one of these courses that you do have to take unless like maybe you got an AP credit or, dual enrollment or something like that. But it's teaching students how to write for academia and also to write in their given professions, kind of to write professionally and kind of teaching them the rhetorical situation. How to be effective communicators, how to be effective writers. And especially now at the university I'm at, we move into incorporating how to be effective communicators in digital spaces as well. So, yeah.
Very nice. Did you enjoy doing all of that?
Yeah, it's really grown on me. I didn't think I would when I first, started teaching when I was in grad school, but as time has gone on, I like it more and more. And I think that's a good way to go rather than the opposite direction.
Yes. Yeah, I would say so.
Yeah.
And you do obviously writing of your own.
Yep, I
I have a
do.
couple things here that little tease there. We're going to get to those in a minute, but I wanted to ask you about now hopefully I don't mess this up. The Black Girl's Guide to Horror.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What can you tell me about that?
So that's a blog that I do. I have not updated that in quite a while, but it's a blog that I started around my last year of graduate school because I wanted something to do and I had a lot of things to say about horror. And basically, it's a website where I kind of examine different horror movies, sometimes books and stories, but mainly movies in terms of like quality, intersectionality, just thoughts that I've had about things. Because sometimes there's a perspective that I think is missing sometimes from certain horror analysis and stuff like that, and even things that are horror adjacent. Because I did one of the last ones I did was about the Striking Vipers episode of Black Mirror, and that one was like a really interesting episode to me, and I saw a lot of people talking about it when it came out, but not really talking about it in a way that I thought. Like they were talking about it in terms of, and when I say they, I mean like Twitter, but
Yes.
they're kind of talking about it in a very I want to say almost shallow way. Of course, it was Twitter, so I shouldn't have expected more. But I was seeing like some deeper connections here between like how Black men sometimes are not afforded the opportunity to like explore their sexuality. And I wrote about it on that one because I thought the episode was great. I thought it was a really interesting, really great concept and a really great execution and wonderful acting, everything. But I kind of wanted to talk about it in like this space of like talking about how we should allow some, to loosen some of these constraints that the patriarchy and like society has put on us. And then also, to, I don't know, stop with the biphobia and all these other kind of stuff. So yeah, that was just my 2 cents.
Well, that's great. Now, do you when you wrote for this or write for this, um, well, like with Black Mirror, you said you saw the episode and you wanted to talk about it. Is that usually the case? You watch something and you're like, I have something to say about this, or do you occasionally come up with something you want to say and find the movie or show that fits that?
It's usually more reactive. So yeah, it's more of like I watch something and I have a strong opinion about it. Like the whole reason I started it, the first movie, and like that, I had to go back and redo some of that post because I was like using GIFs and all this other stuff. It looked so like Tumblr-y when I first started. But the first movie was All the Boys Love Mandy Lane. I have had so much to say about that movie for years. And like I used to talk to all my friends who would listen to me about it, about all my thoughts and opinions. And one day I was like, I really need to stop like talking my friends' ears off about this. Because at the time, like not a lot of my friends are into horror as much as me. They just like allow me to gush to them. So I was just like, let me just get it out on like a website that, maybe some people will go to, maybe not. But yeah, I got out all my things about All the Boys Love Mandy Lane, and then I haven't really talked about it again. So yeah, that's probably a better way to do that.
Well, I do have to ask, do you like or dislike that film?
So my thing with that movie is that I thought it had such promise. I thought the premise was fantastic. I loved the idea of it. I thought it was executed in a way that was a little bit less than it could have been better was my
Okay.
my opinion about that.
I've seen it once. I remember enjoying it,
Hmm.
but I
It's
have not.
a slasher. It is a good. It's like it's an okay slasher, But like I thought it could have been like top tier if there were like some small tweaks. And that was my big problem. Like I'm fine with something that's like even bad, but if you have the promise to be great and then you don't do it,
Yeah.
that's what really gets me. Like, yeah.
Excuse me. Well, I will say I started my YouTube channel and started reviewing for kind of the same reasons. I had read this 9-book Star Wars series and
Awesome.
had nobody to talk to about it.
Yep.
And so I just made a video just discussing my thoughts on it, sort of reviewing the whole 9-book series. And that's my first video.
What series was it, may I ask?
It was the Fate of the Jedi.
Okay. I think I have a friend who's reading that right now, and she's been like updating and stuff on like Twitter and stuff talking about it. But yeah, very interesting. I mean, you probably saw Mark Hamill in
Yes, well, yes,
yeah,
that will be coming up.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, but that's why I started. I had no one to talk to about it. I was like, all right, you know what? I'm just gonna make a video and put it on YouTube, and then started reviewing, and then started doing this. Let's talk a little bit about your writing.
Okay.
First of all, I have not read this one yet, but you do have a story in We Are Wolves.
Yes.
I'm very excited to read this whole thing. A lot of great people in here.
Amazing. Amazing. Like when I saw that the list of people, I was just like, "Oh my goodness." Like Cinepalayo has some I think she has two stories in there. Um, it's just great. I love it.
Now, was this an invitation only anthology or was it an open call?
They did invite me. So I've talked to Laurel and Gemma a few times on Twitter just because like we're kind of in the same spaces. Like I've never met them in person, but like we're a lot of the indie horror crowd. So we kind of show up on each other's feeds and stuff and we talk a little bit. So yeah, they did ask me if I had anything. They were basically just like, do you have anything? This is what we're kind of looking for. Do you have anything that you can maybe send us? And I was like, I have this one story that I've like played around with for years. And it's never found a home. And if you want it, you can have it. So that was that one, yeah.
Nice, very nice. And that one is, I looked at it earlier and don't remember. Where did it go? Welcome Home.
Welcome home, yeah.
Appropriate since it found a home.
Yeah.
And then the thing that I have read, Cirque Berserk.
Yeah.
What is this? Number 4 in the Rewind or Die series.
Yep.
I do want to talk about this a little bit. This might get a little spoilery. So people, go get this book and read it. And
Yeah.
then you can come back and listen to us talk. I'm not going to get super spoilery, but a couple of things I want to talk about,
Mm-hmm.
I think might be considered. People have different ideas of what spoilers are.
Sure, yeah. It's
Um,
been out for
I
like,
actually have a sister. Pardon?
no, I was gonna say it's been out for like 2 years now. Like, like so.
I have a sister who called out spoilers because I mentioned the name of a character in a TV show. And
I
I
don't
said,
know.
I just said her name. And she's like, yeah, but now I know there's a character with that name in the show.
Oh, come on. I don't
So
know. That's a little bit far.
a little bit far. Um, okay, so we've done the warning. Cirque Berserk, a nice slasher,
Hmm.
right?
Yep.
I like you've got the cold open, as I like to call it,
Yep.
that happens in the past, and then we jump to what year do we jump to?
We jumped to 2000. We started in 1999. We jumped to 2019, and then we go back and forth between like 89, 88, 89, and 2019.
Right. So we've got the nice setup. Then we've got your group of teenagers on their senior trip. It's um, covering the tropes, I think, without being tropey.
Hmm.
But the thing that really got to me, and I gave this 5 out of 5 on Goodreads.
Oh, thank you.
Um, and the thing that elevated it, I thought it was well written. It was very entertaining. I would have gone 4 out of 5, but one, I felt besides just being a slasher that it's a love story.
Yeah.
So that's not just me.
No, it is. Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you made me feel sympathetic for the killers,
Hmm. Yeah.
which was wonderful.
Yeah.
You know, they could have just been typical slasher characters,
Hmm.
but they have that history.
Hmm.
And I felt for them. And I really felt, I don't want to say names, but for the two in particular, the love story couple,
Yeah.
I really, really felt something for them and was actually, I hate to say cheering for them by the end because that's horrible. They're slaughtering people, but I wanted them to have a happy ending.
Yeah. Yeah.
So was that the intention the whole time, or
Yes. So yes,
okay?
and like so a couple things about that. Like um I didn't notice it. I didn't notice that I was I guess not alone in this, but not a lot of people think like me. But I almost always have sympathy for the the slasher or killer or whoever, especially in those. Like my heart goes out to Jason. like I feel as though he is a victim of circumstance and everything like that. I obviously see that he's terrible and evil and all this kind of stuff. But like I don't know, I see that. I always have a question about there's a question in my head about whether Freddy Krueger actually did the things that he was murdered for.
Mhm.
Because, first of all, vigilante justice is never good. What was the technicality that he got off? I always have so many questions. And one of my favorite slashers from the 90s, if not my favorite, is Urban Legend. I can never choose between that one and Scream. They're like, for the 90s slashers, they're like 1 and 2 for me,
Mhm.
and they interchange places all the time. But for that one, the slasher in that one, I don't see how she I don't see how was she in the wrong. like I see how she was in the wrong, but also it's just like she actually had really good reason to do what she's doing. And Billy and Stu are kind of but I understand why Billy, hatched his plan.
Right.
So I guess I have a sympathy for monsters and others and things like that. And I kind of wanted to turn that up to like 11, like dial that all the way up and see if I could, can I make other people feel for them? And I wanted it to be a story about both, about where we're seeing equal parts um the the slasher's perspective as well as the other people's perspective, like the teenagers, because they're they're technically teens as well, you know?
Right.
So, you know, if we level that out, so, you know, I just wanted to see how that would work. And as for the love aspect, I didn't notice this until I didn't notice about myself until like the last year or so. So after I even wrote this, but I do like a love story. I do like a little romance and stuff. I think that elevates most stories, but only if it's authentic. Not where it's like one of these forced place, like, you know, like in a lot of action movies, like a Bruce Willis movie or something, they'll throw a girl in and
Right.
then just have Bruce Willis and her like I don't know, kiss at the end, and there's like no reason for them to actually want to be together or something like that. But if there's an actual love story here that makes sense and that you actually are cheering, I love that. I think that just like takes it to the next level. And so yeah, I did want that in there.
Yeah, it is nice to see an authentic, unforced relationship.
Hmm. Yeah.
Um, I tend to sympathize with monstrous characters.
Hmm.
Frankenstein is my favorite of the classics,
Yep. Yep.
and it brings a tear to my eye every time I read it. When he befriends the old blind man, and then the family comes home and just sees him,
Yep.
and the way they react and drive him out just breaks my heart every time.
Yeah.
Love that book. Um, and then on the other hand, I do love like a truly evil, despicable character as well, occasionally.
Yeah.
But you do have a nice mix in here. Everybody, go read Cirque Berserk. It's good stuff. Um, so yeah, I very much enjoyed that. Is there anything that you're currently working on?
Oh man, so this pandemic has done it's been a ringer. I mean, for not just for me, but like in terms of my writing, I didn't do much writing last year. The last thing I completed ended up being in I think it's called the anthology about like all the winter stuff. I think it's called like Chill, something like that. But it's called The Nightmare Man. And I was told by several people it's one of the scariest things they read. I think it's definitely probably one of my scariest quote unquote stories, but that was probably the last thing I did to like that I completed, and that was in late 2020. So I'm trying to get back on the horse. It's a little bit hard right now, but I really do want to finish the thing that I'm working on right now by June, and I'm really hoping to finish that one. But it's a struggle, but I'm hoping.
I have heard a number of people say that they're just having trouble the past year or so,
Yeah.
and you would think that well, you're stuck at home. All
Yeah.
you have to do is write.
Hmm.
That's come on, but it's not just having the time to sit down. It's there's a lot of mental going on with the
Yeah.
pandemic and everything that's happening in the world, and it can sort of block the creative juices, for lack of a better way to put it.
Absolutely. Like when it first started, obviously I was like disappointed and sad when everything first popped off in like March 2020. But one of the only things I was like, oh well, I'm gonna be home. You know, I'm gonna have to teach from home. Maybe maybe I can get some stuff done. And to my surprise, and I think to a lot of people's, it was just, yeah, you're mentally not there. Like there's for a while, and I wrote about this too on Black Girls Guide to Horror, I couldn't even watch a horror movie for like a while. Like I would say from June 2020 until probably late last year, probably the summer of last year, I didn't really watch too much horror or read too much horror. Like it was a lot. It felt too, and it was also a weird place to be because horror used to be the place that I went to almost for comfort sometimes. And to have that, I don't want to say taken away, but to like not have that space anymore was really weird. It was just too much. It was too much. I
Right.
couldn't watch the news, see what's going on social media. There was the stuff with George Floyd and all the protests and like and the pandemic raging and like people fighting old ladies in Walmart for toilet paper. It was just too much to then like go and watch something else that was stressful. I couldn't do it. But I got back. Like I am watching horror again and reading horror again. Um, yeah. So.
Well, what have you watched or read recently that's really stuck out?
Well, funny enough, I've actually been going back and watching things that I haven't watched that I feel like I should have. So Scream 5 just came out and I haven't seen that one yet. But I had only seen the first Scream and the second one. And so I was like, let me go back and watch 3 and 4. And so I did. And funny enough, I will say out of the sequels, out of 2, 3, and 4, everyone hates 3 and I liked it. I really liked 3. Everyone hates that one. And I'm just like, I don't know. I thought it was fun.
I have only seen it once, and I was not a fan. 4 is actually my second favorite.
That's what a lot of people say.
Yeah. Love 4, although I really, really wish, again, spoilers maybe, I don't know. I really wish the killer would have gotten away with it at the end of 4.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I thought that would have been fantastic. A great twist.
Yeah.
At the end, if they had just gotten away with it.
Yeah.
And I haven't seen 5 yet either.
Yeah, I'm excited too, but I don't want to go to a theater. I want to wait until like it's streaming somewhere or something like that. I think you can rent it, but it's like $20 right now or something. So I'm gonna wait until it's either a reasonable price or somewhere that I can stream it. But yeah, I am excited for that. But yeah, I watched that. I watched 2 of the Predator movies. I watched the 1 and 2. What a wild ride that was. I rewatched Sleepwalkers, obviously. I watched what was that? It came over. I think it's called A Classic Horror Story, and it's on it's on Netflix. It's like I think it was done in Spain, either Spain or Italy, one of those 2 places. And
take a look.
Yeah, and I watched Midnight Mass when it came out a couple months ago. But yeah, those are the main things I've been horror-wise that I've been.
Classic Horror Story 2021.
Mhm. Yeah.
In this gruesome suspense film, strangers traveling in southern Italy become stranded in the woods. That's the one?
Yep, that's it. Mhm.
Nice.
Yeah. Yeah.
Did you see Malignant?
Yes, I did.
I always have to ask people. I loved that movie.
Me too. Oh my God, what a fun ride that was. I loved it.
So entertaining.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I just recently watched Halloween Kills. Have you seen that one yet?
Yes, I did. Yes.
What did you think of that?
I think I'm still formulating my opinion. I think I want to wait until there's another one coming out this year, right?
Right. Well, hopefully.
Hopefully, okay. So I want to see how they work all 3 of them together, because maybe sometimes you have to step back and look at, what the forest for the trees, all that kind of stuff. Maybe you have to like step back a little and maybe see how it works as a whole picture. I don't know. Some of it reminded me of some of the sequels that we're supposed to forget, like the whole thing where spoilers for anyone, but like the whole thing with like the angry mob and like the entire town. That happened. Yeah.
That's the sour note for me.
Yeah.
The whole chanting evil dies tonight.
Yeah.
And someone pointed out
mm-hmm.
On one of the podcasts or something that I listened to that they were like, because none of those sequels were supposed to have happened,
mm-hmm.
they're like, why is this mob going insane over 3 murders 40 years ago?
That's a great point.
He's been locked up for 40 years.
Yeah.
And he only killed 3 people.
Mm-hmm.
What is this craziness going on?
Yeah, most of those people shouldn't even know what the hell. These are like younger people who probably just moved to Haddonfield not too long ago. They'll be like, what? Who is that? I don't know. The crazy lady who is, she has a brother? I don't know. Or no, that they're not brothers. They're
Nope.
not brothers, sister, no.
No, not related.
So then I don't know. Yeah, so I don't know.
I liked Big John and Little John.
Yeah. Hmm.
And I like both of those actors.
Hmm.
And now Jason's always, of the big three,
Hmm.
Jason's always been my favorite.
Hmm.
Um, Michael Myers, I could take him or leave him. But for some reason, I don't know why, I really liked him in this.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's because he just seemed like extra brutal.
I will say yes. I
Because he's
like
pretty brutal in this.
he was very, I don't remember, especially not counting the Rob Zombie ones because I don't remember those ones very well. I probably saw those each once, but out of them, I don't remember him being this. Like he slammed somebody's head again, like his kills were really really brutal before, and I remember thinking these are almost like Jason type kills, like.
When he has that, again, spoilers, people, he
Mhm.
has the one guy uh bent over the table while his wife is choking out because she got the light bulb through her neck, and he's just jamming knives into his back.
Yeah,
Picks up a knife, jams it into his back. Picks up a knife, jams it into his back. And I'm just like, wow, that is just crazy.
yeah, yeah. It
Um,
even he even seemed to jump from the last movie. Even the last movie, like the Halloween, what was it, 2018?
right.
Even that one he didn't even see. And this is supposed to be the same person. But I was just like,
The
what
same
happened?
night.
It was the same night. Like, wow. Yeah,
That fire must have pissed him off.
very much.
Um, have you read anything that recently that stands out?
What have I been reading? I've been rereading stuff. I reread My Heart is a Chainsaw by Stephen Graham Jones.
Nice.
That one came out last year. It's so, oh my God, that one breaks my heart. Breaks my heart and puts it back together. I just got Queen of Teeth by Hailey Piper, and I'm actually really excited. I gotta dive into that one, but I haven't read it yet. Um,
I have the hardback with the really bright pink cover.
oh, that one. That one's so beautiful. Yeah, yeah, that's a beautiful cover. What else do I have here? I've been trying to recollect some of the Fear Streets.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, because those are my bread and butter when I was a teenager. I used to just dive into those. So I've been trying to like collect some of the old ones. Um, I was reading a lot of paranormal romance last year, and like those kind of delve into horror because they deal with like werewolves and vampires and stuff like that. Um, yeah, I think those are the main things I've been reading. Yeah.
So I don't know if these actually fall into paranormal romance. You read like Kelly Armstrong,
No.
her
What's
Otherworld series. I think I have the right name.
hmm.
Um, what I liked about her stuff was like the first one or two books were about the main character was a werewolf,
Yeah.
and then the next couple of books took one of the secondary characters from the first books and made them the main character.
That sounds like that's a romance trope. Yeah.
And then it was I forget what that, I don't know, I don't think it was vampires, but then it took a secondary character from there and made, there's a couple witch books
Hmm.
where they're the main character. It's the Otherworld series. They even made a TV series on
I'm
Sci-Fi.
gonna write those down because that sounds like something I would enjoy. But yeah, that sounds like a you said Kelly
Kelly
Armstrong.
Armstrong, Bitten, I believe, is the first one.
Oh, I think that's on my TBR list already.
Okay.
I just didn't remember the name. Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
then
yeah.
do you read J.H. Moncrief?
Mm-mm.
She has she has a bunch of stuff. But she has a series called the Ghost Writer series. Um, and it's a little bit of romance in there, I think, because the first book is from the perspective of this young black writer who's
Hmm.
gone to China, and he's with a tour group, and he meets this woman. I think his name's Jackson. Her name is Kate. Can't remember. It's been a little while since I've read one of them. But they meet. She's got psychic powers,
Mm.
and they go to the most haunted city in China. And then each book takes place in a completely different locale. The second one is more from Kate's perspective, but Jackson is also in it. And all of these places are places that the author has visited.
Ah, okay.
So
the
the first
writer.
What's that?
The Ghost Writer.
Ghost Writer.
Okay.
Yeah, WRI, but it's J.H. Moncrief. She actually just started another series with a character from those, who's now in her own series. I don't know that romance is a big aspect of it, but their relationship, the relationship between the two main characters, is important.
And sometimes that's all you need, you know. So yeah, I mean, obviously, I just like a good story, and I think the reason I gravitate towards horror and the reason I gravitate towards romance is because those two genres, I think more than any other, they are like the genres of feeling. Like you, the whole point of horror, you're supposed to feel something. You know, you are, that feeling of fright or dread or tension or creeped out something, but it's supposed to really make you feel. And the same with romance. You're supposed to feel for these characters. You're supposed to want them to win at the end or end up together, whatever. So, as long as it's making me do that, then I'm fine.
All right, great. Well, we are going to move on to our main event. Before we do that, I do these fake ads, fake sponsorships, because no one sponsors me. I'm hoping maybe someday someone will. And I try to find something that ties in with what we're going to be talking about. I interviewed somebody, they chose The Shining, so I used The Shining board game. Made sense. But I really could not find something that I felt tied into the movie that we're going to be talking about. I tried to think of a book with like a non-traditional shapeshifter, and I'm sure I have one somewhere. I just couldn't think of it. So I'm going to go a little generic this time. This doesn't really tie into the movie we're talking about, but I'm going to say for this episode, our fake sponsor, this episode of My Favorite Horror is not sponsored by the Rewind or Die series by Unnerving Press. There we go, unnerving. Hopefully people can see that. I have 21 of these so far. And folks, if you just want good, fun horror, you get I just grabbed a few. You get things like a nice anthology. It felt like an old horror or Hammer horror anthology to me. This one did. Killer bugs. I love killer animals and killer insects. Great stuff. We get an urban legend come to life, terrorizing some teenagers. We get a nice slasher love story. You've got killer drop bears, and let's see, some satanic panic.
Oh yeah,
all sorts of stuff. And again, I have a ton of them on my book cart over there. That's the Rewind or Die series from Unnerving Press. Folks, go out, pick these books up. I guarantee you're going to love some of them at the very least. You're not going to go wrong with so many of these books. So there we go. That is my non-sponsor for this episode. And I am going to show off. I wasn't going to do this. I hadn't thought to do this, but I actually have a list. We'll see how well this. I made a list.
Oh yeah.
Rewind or Die of all of the Rewind or Die books that I don't have. And every time I place an order online, I order the next one on the list. Which was the Grimhaven Disaster I just got yesterday.
Awesome.
Which is number 21. And the list goes up to 32 so far. So I highly recommend folks check out the Rewind or Die series from Unnerving Press. So that's our non-sponsor. And now we're going to get to the main event. Folks, there will be spoilers. We're going to talk about everything in this movie. So if you have not seen Sleepwalkers, stop this video, go watch Sleepwalkers, then come back and watch us talk about it. There we go. So your choice for my favorite horror was Sleepwalkers.
Yes.
So first of all, can you quickly tell us what the movie's about?
So Sleepwalkers, one is Stephen King's first screenplay, like, first time he did that. And it's basically about this mother and son who are these shape-shifting, they're almost like vampiric a little bit. They basically feed on the quote unquote innocence of like virginal girls, right? And basically they might be the last of their kind. That's a question that's not really answered. But they come to this small town, and the boy, his name is Charles Brady, he basically goes out to try and, get food for him and his mother. And this time it doesn't go quite as planned, I guess. And also, fun fact with this, cats play a very big role. And yeah, they kind of are the saviors here.
All right, great. And again, kind of quickly before we get into the details and everything, why was this your pick?
This movie is one that I return to at least, I probably every couple years. Every few years I rewatch this one. I have it's like one, you ever think about like the movies that kind of blooded you in whatever way, like the ones that made you like the fan that you are of whatever it is that you're a fan of. And I think that this one is one of the ones. Like when I think of my childhood and the movies that I watched that made me a horror fan, I think of like Nightmare on Elm Street. I think of Sleepwalkers. I think of Urban Legend. Like these are kind of ones that like float around in my head a lot, to the point where I remember this specific movie. I remember this was at a point where I remember specifically I did not have a bed in my bedroom at this point. Like I don't know what was going on. I don't remember why, but there was only a huge carpet in my room and the TV and my dresser. And my mom and I sat, like my mom was on a chair and I would just sit laid on the carpet, and we watched it on like a really small white TV. It just came on and we watched it. And I remember up until that point, I wanted a dog so bad as a kid, and my mom just would not get me one. And then I remember after the movie was over, I was like, I want a cat. Like, and that made me a lifelong cat fan. This movie. But yeah, it's one that sticks in my head, and it's crazy. This kind of goes back to me liking Scream 3. I think I'm a person who maybe likes things that a lot of people don't. Because I read that this one was like critically panned or something. Like it did well at the box office, like it was #1 when it came out. And I guess it has like a little bit of a cult following now, but yeah, critics hated it. And I'm just like, were we watching the same movie? This movie's great. What are you talking about? I loved it. I still do.
Well, yesterday was the first time I ever saw it.
Okay.
And I watched it again today. Just to keep it fresh, try to keep it fresh. But I knew about it. I've seen scenes from it. There's an episode, one of the podcasts I listen to is How Did This Get Made? And they do an episode about it. And I have to say, I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
I would like to get the Scream Factory edition on Blu-ray and watch all the special features and everything.
I'm going to, because I didn't know that existed until today when I looked it up, because I have the old, like the DVD, like a really old DVD of it. But then I was like, oh, I didn't know that there was like all this stuff, and I'm gonna get that. Yeah.
Oh, I'm all about the special features and especially commentary. And I think it had on the commentary Mick Garris. I know I'm going to ruin her name. Madchen Amick?
Yeah, I don't know how to pronounce her
Something
name.
like that. And maybe Brian Krause. I don't remember if he was on there, but there's an interview with Alice Krieg, I believe it is. Yeah, I enjoyed it enough that I'll watch it again, and I definitely want to see all those special features.
Yeah, it's crazy because like another thing I remember, like around the time that I first watched this, I was also watching Charmed, and Brian Crouch,
Yes.
he's Leo, and he's like the white lighter, and so I had only ever seen him being like this angelic, wonderful, nice, guy who comes and heals like the sisters when they're hurt, and then all of a sudden he's like a killer, and I'm like, like, I once again love that. Like, I think that's another reason it's stuck in my head. But no, I want all those special features. I didn't know um I didn't know that scene where Stephen King has like a cameo.
hmm
I didn't realize there's other people too in that scene. There's Clive
That
Barker.
scene has Clive Barker
Mhm.
and is it John Landis that's in that one? Or
John
Toby?
Man, I think it's Toby who, because John
Because there's another scene that has maybe that's John Landis and Toby Hooper, and it's Joe Dante that's in the earlier one. I don't know, but all the Stephen King, Clive Barker, Joe Dante, Toby Hooper, and John Landis are all have cameos.
all have cameos, and it's
Um,
wonderful.
they are two different scenes though. Three of them are in one scene, two
Mhm.
of them are in another,
Mhm.
I believe. Um, yeah, so that's fantastic. We'll get to it. There are two things that I don't like,
Mhm.
but overall, like I like the performances.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, we start with a title card that tells us what Sleepwalkers are.
Yeah.
And I don't know, is that a thing or is that just something Stephen King made up? Do you know?
The fake title card.
Well, the definition of what a sleepwalker is.
I think it's fake. I don't think that's an actual thing. But yeah. I've seen that used in other places. Just I think this one that he did was not real. I think that's made up.
And
Yeah.
then we go to Bodega Bay, California,
Mhm.
which is in how many things? That's a place that's in a lot of places, a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
And I did not recognize at first. I did not recognize Mark Hamill.
I didn't realize that was him until today when I rewatched it. I was like, wait a minute.
I I, I think I had heard probably on the podcast How Did This Get Made that he was in it.
Mm.
And I don't know. I think the porn stash threw me,
Yeah, definitely.
and he didn't sound like the Joker from Batman the Animated Series. Um, but yeah, so Mark Hamill's a cop, and oh, we get that first horrible sight of just a bunch of dead cats.
Yeah.
Horrible. Um, now that you're a cat lover, how does that scene affect you?
I know a lot of people really hate like when animals are murdered in horror movies, and I understand it, but I'm not. I don't know. It
I
doesn't
will
hit
say
me. Unless
I
they're real cats, then I'd have a problem. But if they're fake
exactly.
cats, I'm fine.
I am a little sick and twisted when it comes to my entertainment sometimes.
Mhm.
And I did see, like, I liked when Mary, twice we see her kill just snap cats.
Yeah, yeah.
And I'm like, yes, that is so great.
Mhm.
Because, yes, it's obviously, I'm a cat lover.
Mhm.
We have 7 cats outside.
Yeah, you might hear mine. He's
Um,
I was smart enough to feed him before, but he might come around.
Cats are always welcome on this show. But I like to see that kind of thing in a movie. It just,
Yeah.
I'm entertained by it. But yeah, so we have all these dead cats, and Mark Hamill and the other cop find a dead girl.
Mm.
Um, and then it cuts to, well, I think it cuts to the credits and the title and everything, and some
Yeah.
pretty nice visuals. I liked the hieroglyphics and the etchings, drawings. I don't know, some of the
Yeah,
other
yeah, some of
illustrations
the
that they had.
ancient stuff. And like when this time watching it, I was kind of looking for more stuff, and I kind of realized this was before I like looked it up, but I was like, this almost feels like it has two openings. And then that's when I read that like apparently the first opening didn't test well, like so that's when they added the scene with Mark Hamill. and the girl, and I was like, oh, okay, because like first they show you the title card and then that, and like you said, then we go into the heart. I was like, oh, it's almost like we're restarting this again.
Mhm.
But yeah, it I thought it had really I think it's showing you the ancientness of these creatures,
Right.
by showing that. Yeah.
So then, so after all of that, and I just watched it twice. We're in the Brady house, right?
Yes.
That's the first scene. The music is playing.
Mm-hmm.
And
You
then,
see him you see him doing something sick.
oh yeah, that's
Yeah.
right. That's right. He's looking at the yearbook and cuts a T, the letter T, into his arm.
Mm-hmm.
He's a little obsessive about old Tanya Robertson.
Mm-hmm.
Um, although I thought the effect was pretty good.
Yeah.
It looked, normally I would have expected that you would just see the bloodline, but it looked like there was an actual cut
Yeah.
to me. And then, and I love the way that the actress Alice, the character Mary, right? It is
Yeah.
Mary Brady.
I think her name's Mary, yeah.
Yes, I'm looking at IMDb. I love the way she acts around the cats.
Mhm.
Um,
Watching them obsessively. Like
yeah, and then
she
she's
will not
upset
take
when,
time. Go ahead.
well, I was gonna say she's upset when it doesn't get caught in the trap.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Um, but and as I said earlier, I love the performances. I
Mm-hmm.
love her performance. I love his performance. I love Madchen Amek's performance. Hopefully, I'm not butchering her name horribly. Um, and of course, we learn that there's a very inappropriate mother-son relationship going on here.
Good God. That was part like top 10 most disturbing things about this this movie. Yeah.
And especially again, having already listened to a podcast and seen things, I was expecting it, but I can imagine if you're not expecting that,
Mm-hmm.
that
Mm-hmm.
it's really got to be a shock. And I did just look at some reviews on Amazon,
Mm-hmm.
and I like to look at 1-star reviews.
Mm-hmm.
There were two that specifically just said the mother-son relationship is totally inappropriate, disgusting, 1 star.
Oh my God. Like I understand like everyone has their own things and I get it. I don't know that it's disturbing, it's unsettling, but it's not enough to make me be like, no, It's just I was just like these people. I don't know. I think it just add to the weird monstrosity of them. Like this is another one I don't know that made me it had a lot of questions were raised about them because I was like, so is this a thing that your species does or is it just you two?
Right.
Like, are you two? Is like she the sick one, or is this just a thing with your species? Um, yeah, I don't know.
So we get some inappropriate behavior with them. They're dancing, they're talking. He says he's going to go to the movies to see a girl. She
Mm.
seems a little jealous.
She asked, "Is she nice?"
Yes. Well, that's an important question.
Mm-hmm.
They need a nice girl.
Yeah.
Um, and then we cut to the theater and we meet Tanya
Oh,
Robertson.
we don't cut so quick. They go into a bedroom.
Oh, that's right. That is where. Yeah, we don't see the
Yeah.
shenanigans yet, but he
Yeah.
does pick her up and carry her up the stairs and into the bedroom. I forgot, and we get that glow in the window.
Yep.
Yes, I forgot about that. And just dozens and dozens of
And
cats
the cats are
outside,
watching, like,
cats everywhere. Then we cut to the theater. We meet Tanya Robertson. Um, she's very cute. I love her little when she's dancing. Although I kept thinking, you're doing a horrible job vacuuming the carpet when you're just dancing around. You're missing a lot of spots.
hmm I think one of the things I really like about this movie, they do introductions to these characters really well. Like we get told in the first few minutes like who these people are very quickly. And I remember thinking, "Oh yeah, this is perfect." Like she's a very you get from that scene she's a very innocent, naive,
Hmm.
happy-go-lucky girl
Yep.
right there. Classic final girl material kind of thing.
And even when so he startles her,
Hmm.
and I like the interplay between the two of them.
Yeah.
I like, not all of the dialogue is wonderful, but I
Hmm.
do like a lot of it. And
Yeah.
especially when it's like between the two of them. Um, he asks for a popcorn and a Mr. Pibb, and she's getting his drink, and she's like, "I'm so embarrassed. Am I blushing?" And "I like you in red."
Yeah.
And she just her reactions, her facial expressions, I think are great. And there's a little flirting going on. And even when she's like, "Oh, popcorn," because she forgot he wanted popcorn too. Um, yeah, I like the interplay between the characters.
Mhm.
So, and he asks if he can drive her home. He's
Yep.
already putting the
Hmm.
moves, but she's like, "No, my dad picks me up."
Hmm.
Um, although I think it's a continuity error, maybe. After she gets picked up and he's standing outside the theater, he walks home
Oh, that's true. Yeah,
because he walks up and his car is in the drive. I'm like, wait a minute, how was he gonna drive her home if his car's at home?
you're absolutely right. Yeah. Huh. I didn't even notice that. You're right though. Hmm.
But then I was like, I try to be not. I'm like, well, maybe he. If she had said yes, he was gonna sneak home, get the car, and come back or something during the movie that he was supposed to be seeing. I don't know, but yeah, he walks. I was like, wait a minute.
Maybe it was one of those things though. That was more of a test because wasn't that like one of the tests to see if she was like nice, quote unquote?
Well, he does tell his mom. His mom asks him something, and he's like, uh, "Did you go out? Did you do so?" He's like, "A nice girl wouldn't, or what
Yeah,
kind of girl would go out with a
with a
guy
guy
like that?"
she just
Or
met. Yeah, would like go
and
home
she's
with a
like,
guy
"Not a
she just.
very nice girl."
Yeah. So maybe he knew she'd say no or something, or maybe that was a test to see if she'd say no.
Yeah, and then we
I
get more.
I was thinking I did have a question of did he because he was like he's watching the dad pick her up and I was like so did he wait just to see if she was lying to see oh if she's telling the truth and that's another thing okay she is probably or maybe she might have a boyfriend or something that he doesn't I was like what if he was just trying to see I don't
Oh,
know
I don't know. That didn't cross my. I just thought he was creepy stalker.
that too.
Oh, but even then, like, again, that interplay. He says something. He calls her Tanya. She's like, "How do you know my name?" He's like, "Well, we're in English class together.
True, yeah.
Creative writing, creepy Mr. Phallus, blah blah
Hmm.
blah blah." And then she, of course, she's being flirty. "Oh, what about your girlfriend?" He's like, "I don't have a girlfriend. I'm new in town. Remember?" She's like, "Oh yeah."
Hmm.
So they're kind of feeling each other out.
Yeah.
Um, and then we get him in school. We get to see her with some of her friends. We meet Mr. Phallus. Now, a lot of these people that are in this movie, maybe because I watch too many things, like I'm immediately associating them with other things. And so to me, Mr. Phallus is Odo from Beetlejuice.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, and Mary Brady, Alice Krieg, she's always the Borg queen to me from Star Trek First Contact.
Yeah.
Um, now, so after school he asks her out, or I don't know. I've
Well,
lost track a bit.
in class, he reads the story of the
The
Sleepwalkers, right?
Sleepwalkers.
He reads the story of the Sleepwalkers, and it's basically like him telling his story of him and his mother about how like they're always found out and chased out of town, and like kind of once again putting them in like a sympathetic role because even Tanya says, "I liked it because you feel sad for them or whatever." Mr. Phallus is being a dick to his students.
Hmm.
And you see him like watching Charles through the window and stuff like that and he even like raised a question about he's like oh you're from this place right kind of
Right.
saying that he kind of knows that he's not on the up and up and then afterwards we get Tanya talking to her friends and she's telling them about, oh, I saw him at the theater last night and we talked and da da da. And they're like, oh yeah, you're not really gonna do anything with him. You're, Miss Virgin or whatever. And she's like, well, I'm thinking I'm gonna take him to Homeland, and
Right.
just from all the context clues and the fact that like some jock is like sending a girl a picture of like them doing something in Homeland, you get the sense that this is a place where all the teenagers go to have sex.
Hmm.
And so they're like, oh, you're going to take him to Homeland? And so then, they're laughing about it. And then he comes up and he asks her, I think he asked her if she wants a ride home or something.
Right.
And
Well, he is again being charming. He asks. He says, "Would you like a ride home, all of you?"
yes, right, right. Mm-hmm. And
And
then
her
the
two
friend,
friends are like, "Oh nope, we're doing something, but Tanya can take a ride home."
yeah, and they wink, wink, nudge, nudge. And, and so he takes her home. And then, oh, sorry, I feel like I'm taking over your stuff.
No, 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 absolutely. You're the guy. That's what you're here for.
So yeah, so he takes her home, and this is another great scene, I think, when like takes her home, she shows him to her bedroom, and like I love that this just felt real to me. Her room is not, it's like there's panties and bras all over the place.
Exactly. I love that. And
Mm-hmm.
that she's trying to hide this stuff,
Mm-hmm.
and especially when he's looking at the one photo and
Yeah.
there's a pair of panties right there on the dresser in front of him, and she's trying to get him to look and,
Distracted.
oh, my favorite photo's over there, so that she throws him on the floor and kicks him under the dresser. And
Yeah.
yeah, that felt authentic to me.
Yeah. Yeah, because like sometimes you have these movies and like the girls' rooms are like these pristine places, and I'm like, I guess maybe we're a little cleaner than boys, but not by much. Not by much. So yeah, like so I really liked that. And so they're talking and she's like, "Oh, well, we could go do these like I don't know, these what are they
The
um
rubbings, etchings.
rubbings, etchings at Homeland." And then he's like, "Oh yeah." And so they make a date and the mom walks in and she's like obvious like looking like, why is there a boy in your room? Like, but she's like, oh, I was just showing him out. And you know, they leave. The mom at first she looks a little suspicious, but then he charms her over.
Yeah, because he actually knows about doing the etchings and the
Yes,
rub.
right. So he
Tries to. She's like, "Oh, what do you use? Chalk or powder or stick or powder?" He's like,
mm-hmm,
"Oh, I like a stick. I usually a number 5." And she's
yep,
like, you can see she's like, "Oh, he knows what he's talking about."
yep, yep. And so like he wins over her trust right then, showing how charming he is. And yeah, and she's like, okay, yeah, you guys can go tomorrow as long as she's back by 5. And then he goes back to his mother. She thinks he has like the food, the essence or whatever. Oh wait, no, he doesn't get back yet. On
Right. This
his
is
way home. Yeah, this is where
okay.
things happen. Yes.
So the teacher. So yeah, he's driving down the road. He's got his blue Trans Am T top, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and a car is driving behind him, honking the horn, and he pulls off, and it's Mr. Phallus. So, and Mr. Phallus basically accosts him and says, "There is no Pleasant Hills or whatever, Ohio.
Yeah.
Transcripts are fake."
Mm-hmm.
Now, my question was because Charles embarrasses, I guess, he embarrasses the teacher in the class
Yeah.
because the teacher says, 4 sides like a box. And he says, well, Mr. Phallus, a box has 6 sides. And everybody laughs at him. Was he checking up on him? Was Mr. Phallus checking up on Charles because he didn't like him or because he was attracted to him?
I think it's because he's attracted to him. Because, like I said, he asked before that happens or he embarrasses him. He already was questioning him about, oh, you're from this place, right?
Yeah.
And then he's like, yeah, yeah, yeah. And he's like, he already has that question. So I think he was already like checking up on Charles before. And then that just probably like put it into overdrive where he was like, let me really look at these transcripts, you
And
know?
he's incredibly aggressive slams Charles's hand in the door as
Mm-hmm.
Charles is trying to get out of the car. And then basically Charles says, I don't have, if you're going to blackmail me, I don't have any money. And he essentially says, it's not money I want.
Yeah.
Reaches down, I assume grabs his crotch.
Yeah.
His hand goes out of view. And then the wonderful scene,
Yeah.
Charles just rips his hand right off.
You see Charles like grab his hand, and then you just see blood splatter on the windshield, and he's just like, "You're right. You really should keep your hands to yourself. Here's yours."
He pulls back a stump.
Yep.
And the face change. This is the first time we see the face change, I believe.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I really like that scene. And so Mr. Ferris or Fallis takes off. He chases him down, kills him.
Mm-hmm. He's running. He's like, I'm sorry.
Yeah. And I like the way that was done, where the camera is at times the camera is Mr. Fallis's perspective,
Mm-hmm.
and so it looks back, and then it looks forward and runs into a tree.
Yep.
And that's when he catches him. But then, so after he's done with that, he gets back in his car and he takes off.
Yeah.
And this is when we meet the hero of the movie,
Clovis,
the attack cat.
Mm-hmm.
So we have this deputy with Clovis, the attack cat. He sees Charles fly past, goes in pursuit. I love, again, because I'm sick and twisted, I love that Charles tries to run down a little girl.
He almost ran over a little girl, and this is where I love this scene, because both of the scene before it and this one, because up until this point, besides the creepiness with the mom and the like cutting himself, we've only seen him be charming. Like he's been, for the most part, very charming, respectful. There's a question about that I have, like in the bedroom scene, whether he saw the panties or not, and like he just did.
Right.
You know, if he really just was clueless, because you were right by his hand, but whatever. But like all that kind of stuff. But we've just seen him be a perfect gentleman, and to now see that switch, I thought was just like to the point, like you said, of almost running over a little girl, like almost like purposefully.
Yeah, he's flying down the road.
Mm-hmm.
There's the bus is stopped. The little arm bar on the bus is out. The guy is helping kids cross, and they very clearly show him step on the gas.
Yep.
And head straight for him.
And he laughs. He even like laughs a little. Yeah.
Busts through that arm bar, but we see the guard has pulled the girl out of the way.
Mm-hmm.
And the deputy, I can't remember his name. Let me check. Andy Simpson. Mm-hmm. Deputy Simpson. Can't believe it. I can't remember if this is before or after he pulls up next to him.
No, this is before, I think. This is before.
And I think he's even charming when he flips off the cop.
Yeah.
There's just something, because he is a very cute young man.
Yeah.
And yeah, so the cop pulls up next to him, he flips him off, but then Clovis pops up.
Yeah.
And here's the one part that I don't like. That's CGI.
Oh yeah.
And he turns into like a baby face, and then it wasn't well done.
Yeah.
But
and you know, I can agree with that. I can agree with that. I don't hold it against it though, because like CGI back then, I think I read that they were using the same CGI that like Michael Jackson used in like the black and white.
I assumed that's basically what they did.
Yeah. So yeah, no, but I agree that probably was, that wasn't so great.
I think the thing that throws me the most is it really looks like a baby face at one point, and I don't understand why.
Yeah, I don't either. I don't know either.
Yeah, so he's freaked out by the cat. The cat's freaked out by him. He takes off, and we learn of one of their powers when he pulls off the side of the road and makes the car disappear.
Yeah.
crazy. I had no idea that was coming.
Yeah, yeah. They have weird powers, yeah.
But I love when the deputy pulls off and is looking around. He's like, I can't believe I lost him. And Clovis is looking out and can see him. And he's just yelling at the cat.
Turn around, you stupid cat.
Looking at me.
Looking at me.
Looking at me. Fantastic.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So Deputy Simpson goes back. It's a little later, but he basically goes back to the station and tells the sheriff what happened. And we have Horace. Can't remember his last name. Oh, I just hit the wrong thing. The one deputy, Horace something. It seemed to me that's the guy that's a deputy because he's the brother or son of somebody.
Somebody, yeah. Definitely nepotism, because
yeah, he is not a good cop
at all.
Yeah, Horace.
Also, it's a small town. You know, how good do you have to be? You know,
But yeah, so then Charles goes home, and his mom is really pissed at him because she keeps saying how hungry she is.
Yeah,
and I think at this point we really don't know what that is, do we? And she even, I think this is when she slaps him a couple of times.
Yeah, she slaps him, and then because this is when he raises his hand to stop, and she sees the cut that he got from when. Yeah.
Sees the big cut on his arm, and then see now things are starting to get mixed up a little for me.
Well, one thing. So back in the sheriff's office, when Deputy Simpson, he's trying to tell Ira and Horace about what happened, and he's like, I saw his face change, and they're like, do you need some time off? and he's like, no, and also when he saw Clovis, he was afraid of him, and they're like, okay, and then he's like, just go home, and he's like, no, I'm gonna find him. And so he takes Clovis, like any cat parent, he cradles Clovis and goes off. And so now we're with Charles and the mom, and he's like, she freaks out on him because he still doesn't have food, whatever
whatever it is.
And but he's like, no, I'm going with her tomorrow. I have a date with her tomorrow. You'll get food or whatever. And she sees the cut, and instantly, by the way, she goes from wailing on him to when she sees the cut, now she's tender again.
Yeah, super sympathetic.
Yeah, she's all sympathetic again, which is another thing of that's another question is classic abuser type stuff as well. You know what I mean? Which is another question, is it you or is it your species? Because this is kind of how abusers kind of go from one end of the spectrum to the other. But go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, this was the moment when I was watching it today that it actually made me think a little bit of Cirque Berserk, because this is when I felt the most sympathy for them, because when he comes home, he tells her, he mentions the teacher, and that it's starting again. We're going to have to move.
Yeah.
And yes, they're killing people, but that's their nature.
Yeah.
Maybe not necessarily the way some of the things that happen, but yeah, I felt sympathy because they want to exist. They want to live their lives. And yet they know that as soon as somebody finds out that they're different, finds out what they are and what unfortunately they have to do to stay alive, they're going to be run out of town.
Yeah.
They're going to have to pack up and leave again.
I think that definitely evokes some sympathy in me. And also, you see that there's a real want that Charles has to take care of his mother. He really has this responsibility. And like I said, this movie raises so many questions for me, because I'm like, did something happen to where she can't, can the women not hunt because you need girl girl essences. Can you have a boy? Like I was, and I know you can't like put all this. It would get too info dumpy. But I kind of like that it makes me have all these questions. And I was like, or was she hurt or something like that?
Right.
Um, because they mentioned that the dad is dead. Like he says this at one point, and I'm like, okay, so was the dad killed or what happened? Is it something where she's injured and she can't go? Like it doesn't work as much for her if she tries. Because even in the end, which I guess we'll get to, but yeah, I guess we'll get to that. But yeah, there's a question of whether or not she can actually take the essence from the girl. It has to be him that does it.
Yeah, that seems to be the case.
Yeah.
So she's smacking him. She sees the cut, becomes immediately sympathetic, and I believe this is now where we get
Yep.
the disturbing scene of them
Yep.
going upstairs, and there's a love scene between mother and son.
Mm-hmm. Yikes.
And the pan over to the mirror where we see them in their natural form.
Mm-hmm.
First
And
we
this
see
is
them
the scene.
au natural, then we see their natural form.
Yeah. And this is a scene I remember I think this every time I watch it because I always forget. At first when they're having sex, I'm like, ugh, we did not need to see this mother son sex scene. But then when we pan over, I'm like, oh yeah, we did. Because now we do, like when you see them in this, like all of their monstrousness is on display. Not just that they physically are different, but
Yeah.
like what they're doing too is just so, beyond what we are used to. And then you
Like
have the glow as well.
when we see um when his face changes when he goes after Mr. Phallus,
Mhm.
it's kind of cute. He's a
Yeah,
cute monster.
yeah, yeah.
It's not monstrous, but then we see
Hmm.
the full what they are. Um so now I feel, am I missing something, or does it go to um Tanya putting together the picnic basket to go to his house?
I think it goes there. Yeah, I think that's what it goes to. Yeah,
Okay.
there.
And again, I love the interplay with her and her parents.
Hmm. Yeah, the mom is like adamant, like you need to be home by 5 because she she kind of trusts her and she likes Charles, but she also knows what Homeland is. So she's
Yes.
like,
And
you
they
need
are having guests over for dinner.
and they're having guests over for dinner, right? So be home by 5, and like Tanya's sneaking a little bottle of wine, in or whatever, and the dad's just, reading the paper oblivious, and you just see that they're like a cute, normal, middle America family.
Wait, I don't think it's been mentioned. Um, this is Ferris Bueller's parents.
Really?
Yes.
I knew it was that's the mom too.
Yes, they were an actual married, or at least at the time, they were an actual married couple.
Oh
The
wow.
actors were married, and now from what I read, they weren't married when they played his parents on Ferris Bueller,
Uh-huh.
but had since gotten married before they were in this. But yes, that is Ferris Bueller's mom and dad.
How do you not? There's so many gems in this movie. Like, how do you not love it? But okay, yeah.
So she now the one thing again, this is the timing seems a little odd because now is when Mary is sewing up the wound on
Yeah.
Charles's hand.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so she's sewing him up. They're talking. She's hungry. She's starving.
Mm-hmm.
They do argue a little bit. He
Yeah.
calls her a bitch. Um, and then the doorbell rings and it's Tanya.
Yeah.
And I love the interplay between her and Mary.
Yeah. Yeah, and like there's a scene where like Mary, I don't know what she's doing. I don't know if she's pouring tea or something. And Charles looks and like there's a mirror on the other side and like you can see their true forms in the mirror.
Right.
And he's like, we gotta go. But yeah, but like Mary and the like she's just acting so sweet. And you can see how like where he gets the charm from. She tells her, oh, you're beautiful, you're this, gives her a rose, which we saw in the first Dead Girl in the first, in their cold open. So if you didn't already put that together, now it's put together. And
I love the thing with the scissors where you don't know what she's gonna do, and she
Mhm.
walks up behind her holding these scissors, and the way it's framed is really nice because she turns around, Tanya turns around, and we see Tanya's face with these sharp scissor blades right in front of her,
Yep.
snap shut, and then she goes and cuts a rose.
Yep.
Very well done, I thought.
Very amazing.
Now, is it just me or do Mary and Tanya looks alike?
I never thought about it. Um, I don't know. I don't see too much of it. I feel like Mary's like like very slender and like has the long her hair is almost like an auburny brown. Whereas like Tanya to me looks like a very chocolatey kind of brown. And I
Uh,
don't know, to me,
I don't know. I thought I saw some similarities, which for me played into why he might have picked her.
maybe
But that could just be me projecting.
maybe who knows? Yeah, maybe. Yeah.
So Charles and Tanya go to Woodland. What is it called? I forgot already. Homeland. Yes.
Yeah.
Which is a cemetery and a makeout point.
Hmm.
And again, wonderful interplay, I think, between the two of them.
Hmm.
Very fun. He goes and does some etchings.
Hmm.
She's a little aggressive.
Hmm.
Because he's like, I better go do this. We want your mom wants to. I forget exactly how he puts it. Something about your mom wants to know there was some rubbing going on,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Your mom
and
wants to know there was
and
some.
she's like, yeah, so do I.
Yeah.
Um, and then she's taking pictures. I thought the turn, which is coming up, was incredibly sudden,
Hmm.
but well done. Now, so stuff's going on. They fall down. They start kissing. Things happen. I'm kind of glossing over. Um, he starts sucking her life out.
Yeah.
And up until this point, he has been incredibly charming.
Mhm.
And as soon as this happens, he becomes the aggressive, assholish guy. So my question was, is this because it felt like right before that, it felt like he actually cared for her and felt bad about what they were going to do.
Hmm.
But now all of a sudden, he's like, this is it. This is what's going to happen.
Yeah.
So do you think that first taste, um, which I think just sort of happened because they were kissing, wasn't necessarily a conscious decision on his part? Um, that first taste brought out his true nature, and now it doesn't matter if he likes her or not. This is his nature. This is what he has to do.
I actually never thought of it like that because like for me, I thought his mind was made up like when she came and like the mother and her were together. I thought then it was like he was like I if I have to choose one, it's my mom, you know. And so I don't know, but like when they're there to also this is I don't know if this must be I don't know if it's intentional, but like there's when they're playing around, the camera does this thing with them where they're like rolling on the ground,
Mhm.
and like when he ends up on top of her, like there's like a couple rolls, and like you kind of feel like the world is kind of like upended a little bit, and when he lands on top of her, that's when he starts to kiss her and then sucks the life force out.
But she kisses him first.
That's oh yeah, she does.
She kisses him, and he stops her and says sorry because
Hmm.
she says no sorries.
Hmm.
And that's when I was thinking he likes her
He does, yeah.
and sort of regrets what he has to do and
Hmm.
isn't sure about it. Or maybe he's saying sorry because he knows what he's about to do.
These
Man,
are the questions. I love
yeah.
this movie. But yeah, no, I it could be either one because I do think he feels sorry for what he's doing. I do think I don't think he wants to, because I think he was like, at one point, wasn't he even like, did he say something like maybe there's someone else or something like that? At one point, I don't remember. At one point with his mom, he says something like, oh, maybe we can do something. And then she's like, I'm hungry now. Like, this is the girl.
I need to eat.
Yeah. So
But
I think he does. I think there is a part of him that does like her, and is sorry for this.
but once he gets that taste,
Yeah.
he's not sorry at all. He is aggressive. He's doing it.
Mm-hmm.
He even says at one point, he tells her, because he's gone cat face.
Mm-hmm.
She's got those marks on her mouth, I assume from his fangs.
He
and
hits her at one point.
He says, but before, I think it's before he hits her the first time, he says it doesn't have to hurt.
Yes.
But then shortly after that, he's like, I lied. It does have to hurt.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, he does smack her around a little bit, pins her down, starts sucking the life force out again, and then she gets a hold of her camera and cracks him in the head.
Yep.
Nice hard hit.
Yep. She makes him run for it.
And then he catches her. I think that's when when she tries to run at that point, I think that's when he says it does have to hurt.
Yeah.
Throws her down again, and then she gets the corkscrew.
And then, yep.
Eyeball. And I love his performance in the. He's like, look at, you got blood all over my shirt. My mom's gonna be so mad.
Kill me. Yep.
But she makes it.
Well, at this point, she's lucky because Sheriff and Clovis, or not Sheriff, Deputy and Clovis are driving around, and he sees the blue. Well, when she hits him, it turns. Yeah.
Completely forgot. And I meant to mention it earlier when way back when he made the car disappear when he was being chased by the deputy.
Mm-hmm.
After the deputy leaves, the car reappears and it's a red Mustang convertible.
Right. Yep.
And so like when Tanya comes to pick him up for the picnic, she's like, "Oh, nice Mustang. Where's the Trans Am?" He's like, "Oh, it's in the shop." The Mustang is, and Mary's like, "It's his mother's." But yeah, so he drives her there in the Mustang. When she hits him, then it, like, his concentration is broken, so it reverts back to the blue Trans Am.
Yeah.
And the deputy, completely forgot about that part.
Forgot about that part too, yeah. And that's when Deputy and Clovis are driving by, and he spots the Trans Am, and he does. I think he must have radioed and said, like, I spotted it. Gets out to investigate, and here comes Tanya running.
Yes.
Like, oh my god, we have to get out of here. And he's like, wait, calm down, what's happening? And she's like, you don't understand, his face changed. And he's like, face changed? Yep. All right, get in the car.
I know what you're talking about.
Yep. But before, she's trying to tell him, no, we have to leave now. And Charles pops up behind him and right in the ear.
Yep.
The corkscrew in the ear. And, Deputy falls back. He tries to grab at Tanya. And here comes Clovis.
Before that, the deputy shoots him.
Oh yeah, Clovis takes a while to show up.
Because he turns around and he's like, "Deputy, you didn't fire a warning shot." And then he just takes the deputy's gun and shoots him.
Yeah.
Kills the deputy. Goes after Tanya again. That's when Clovis, the hero.
Yeah.
Clovis shows up
and pounces on him and starts like just clawing the crap out of him,
tearing him up, and we see some smoke.
Yeah. Yeah, you see some smoke, you see him freak out, and he gets Clovis off of him. He runs in his car and just hightails it out of there. And so Tanya obviously gets on the walkie-talkie, whatever thing, calls for people. They come, and this is where we get the scene.
Stephen King.
Stephen King, Clive Barker. I think is it Toby or Tobe Hooper? How do you pronounce it?
I always say Toby Hooper.
Okay, Toby. When I read things, I don't know how they're. Yeah. So Toby Hooper I think it's those three in that one scene, and I always remember this because Stephen King's like, because even when I was little, I realized that was Stephen King, and so when he's like, "Hey man," he's like talking to different. He's like, "Hey man, I do my job. I lock up. I can't control every pervert weirdo that comes here." And the guy's like, "Go talk to the other guy."
Go talk to him.
And he just does it again and again. I love that scene.
Yes, and Stephen King is over the top.
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah, that's a lot of fun. Clive Barker putting on an American accent.
Yeah.
Young Clive Barker.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah.
So Tiny tells her story to the sheriff, and she knows. She's like, "This is his name. This is his address. This is what he's driving." But she makes that classic mistake of saying, "He's not human."
Yeah, his face, all that kind of stuff.
And we came here in a blue car to change, or a red car, and it changed into a blue car, apparently.
Yeah.
So the sheriff's going to send her home with Horace, and she remembers her she's like, "Get my camera, develop that film. There's pictures of him." And then, of course, the smart thing, she's like, "Sheriff, when you come by the house later, can you bring Clovis?"
Yes.
He's my hero. He saved my life. Then we get Brian. That's his real name, Charles, driving home, and he is just torn up.
He is,
messed up. And when he stumbles up to the door, and his mother answers the door, and he's like, "My face is hot." Not anymore, pal. It was, but not anymore. But and this is another scene where I feel sorry for him because he's what he tried to do was horrible. Now he's a little boy, basically, who's hurt and suffering and just wants his mother to make it better. I feel bad for him.
And even in this moment, while she's taking care of him, he's still worrying about her.
Yeah.
He's like, "Oh, we have to go, and I have to feed you," and all. Like, he's like still freaking out about that. Yeah.
Because as weird as as disturbing as their relationship might be, they truly love each other. Yeah, so now again, things are going to get a little jumbled in my head. The order that things happen.
Yeah. She tells him that if you're strong enough, can you dim? Can you dim yourself because they're coming? The cops are coming.
That's right.
And he tries and he can't. And she's like, it's okay. I'll do it for both of us. And so she hears the sirens coming, and she dims the car.
Yep.
Side, and then she runs to him, and then she dims both of them, and she tells him, "You have to be quiet." And so she dims them, and the cops bust in, and there's Ron Perlman.
Very young. So young Ron like baby Ron Perlman.
Ron Perlman and the sheriff, and they bust in through the doors, and they don't see anything. And Ron Perlman says something like, "They're gone. Like they made it out of here."
Ron Perlman is such an ass.
He's a complete dick in this. Yeah. But because like he says something like, "Oh, she's just Tanya's just she needs a smack in her butt and whatever.
And if her parents won't do it, I'll volunteer."
Yeah, something like that. And it's just like, this girl was just attacked and nearly y'all they think she's nearly been raped, and in a way it kind of is, but she was just assaulted.
But I do like when they're standing by the couch, they're very close to where Mary and Charles are, and the sheriff shudders and he says, "Cold draft," and Ron Perlman's like, "What? You could use one right about now?" I thought that was pretty funny.
Yeah, I did too.
But yeah, then they go upstairs because they're still searching around. That's when Ron Perlman says she needs a smack on the ass, and if her parents won't do it, he'll volunteer. And the sheriff is just basically, he knows he's a dick.
Yeah.
And he's like, "You stay away from her."
Yeah.
Meanwhile, Horace is at the house eating their food.
Yeah.
Which is going to lead to my second not a big fan thing.
Oh, okay. I know what you're going to say.
Yeah. Um, and again, this just watching Horace in these scenes, it's like, yeah, he's somebody's son or brother.
Yeah.
That's the only way he's on this police force.
And definitely not the one I would have sent. But I guess if it's between him and Ron Perlman, I don't know. Like I would not have sent him with Tanya. But
well, the thing with Ron Perlman is he's like, there's the sheriff, Horace, Simpson, whatever his name is, the one that ends up dead.
Yeah.
Clovis's owner. That's a sheriff and deputies, and Ron Perlman is like a state trooper. Those guys are stadies.
Yeah.
Oh, and before I forget, the moment that broke my heart, after Charles drives off from Homeland, when Clovis just crawls up on the deputy's chest.
Yeah.
The dead deputy, and Clovis just crawls up there and curls up. Oh, Clovis.
Oh, I did. I was like, oh, poor thing. Oh no. What a great cat actor.
Yes. Yeah. There's a lot of great cat acting.
Yeah.
So yeah, the cops leave the Brady house, except for there's 2 left behind. And the sheriff has gone back, and I think this is where they're looking at the photos that have been developed.
Yes.
And they look like they're from J-horror.
Yeah.
because his face is all weird. It's not quite, it's not his human face, but it's not his cat. Are they cats? I mean, because they hate cats.
Yeah.
The cats are their enemies, but they look cat-like.
Yeah, I honestly don't know what that's about. I have no idea.
So, yeah, so it doesn't look like his human face. It doesn't look like his monster face.
Mm-hmm.
And this is where we have, I believe, John Landis and Joe Dante.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Are there looking at the pictures?
Because they say, like, I think the sheriff says something like, "What is it? Was she not in focus?" And I think they say something like, "No, everything else is in focus. Like,
yeah,
these are good shots. His face is just changing."
Meanwhile, I keep wanting to call her Alice because that's her real name. Mary sneaks out of the house while still dimmed, and the 2 cops that are watching the house get out of the car, and she clunks their heads together like they're coconuts.
Yeah.
And Tanya is at home taking a bath while Horace is eating their food. And so eventually Mary shows up at the Robertsons' house. And Horace is not good at his job.
At all.
Because the doorbell rings. Either the doorbell rings or there's a knock. And he just looks out the window and sees a state trooper car. He's like, oh, it's state troopers. It must be Soames, which is Ron Perlman's character. And goes back to eating. And then when the doorbell or the knock, whatever it is, happens again, the dad says, I'll get it. Opens the door, and it's Mary, who again is pretty charming.
Shows up with flowers and is like, oh, my son wanted to deliver these in person, but he's not feeling so well. You know?
And then the charm is gone when she slams the vase into his face.
Yeah.
But then she walks in and she says, oh, you have such a lovely home.
Yeah.
They're so polite. They're
so
polite
funny.
monsters.
Yes, very much.
So we get all sorts of crazy action.
Horace. Go ahead.
Horace is a horrible shot.
Yeah. He hits everything but her. I think he might have hit her once, like maybe.
She throws Tanya's mom out the window. Then Horace calls the sheriff's department on the phone. And this is when, I don't know.
I like it.
Stabbed in the back with a cob of corn. Oh no. Just doesn't seem like it would do that much damage to me, but what are you gonna do?
I don't know. As a kid, I loved it.
That's one of the 2 things I think might be a little too silly for me.
Yeah. And I think maybe for me, what might have taken over the top was what she says after she does it. She's like, no vegetables, no dessert, or something like that.
Those are the rules.
Those are the rules, yeah. And then, of course, Tanya hears all the commotion. She runs downstairs, sees her dad on the floor, tries to help him, and that's when Mary grabs her and is like, you're coming with me. You're gonna, see Charles. And she tries to fight a little bit, but it's really no use.
She likes
Drag her.
scratching people in the face because she did the
Yeah,
same. Mary and Charles both got the nails across the face.
yes, good. Yeah, good on her. Because
Yeah.
that was probably. And now that we're talking about it, I realize I think I've been a little bit too hard on Tanya. I always wanted her to fight a little bit more in certain areas, but I'm like, no, she actually did fight, especially for a girl who's not like, taking kickboxing or anything like that. She does a really good job. So yeah, she does fight quite a bit.
Well, hell, she's at this point when, well, after I love the way she just breaks Ron Perlman's arm and jams it into his head
Yeah.
and then blows up a couple cop cars.
Mm-hmm.
But once she's in the car with Tanya, Tanya looks like she's gonna jump out of that moving car to get away.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But alas, Mary won't let her.
Yeah.
Pulls her back in.
Oh, for this, by the way, I don't remember what happened, but something triggers all the cats in
Right.
the town to take. I don't remember what happens, but something triggers. It's like something goes off, and all of them herd their way.
Well, I was wondering because, well,
It's something to do, I think it's something to do with like they might have sensed that one of them was dying or something. I don't know.
see, I was going to say, we've always seen them congregating at the house because Mary's always at the house,
Mm-hmm.
but we've never really seen them follow, excuse me, Charles when he's gone to like school or anything. Because I was going to say maybe some are still at the house where Charles is, and maybe all the others knew that Mary went somewhere else.
Mm-hmm.
But
Yeah, I think something did. I think it was like I think some of them were still at the house because it seems like there's always like at least like maybe a dozen at the
at
house.
least,
Yeah. But then like something happens where like literally every cat in the neighborhood was like, no, we gotta go. There's something going down at the Robertson house.
I was watching. There were some cute little kittens, and
So cute. Yeah. Yeah.
but she takes off with Tanya, heads home, and I like this. She gets home, and it's like the birds
Mm-hmm.
with the cats. They're on the roof of the
They're
house. They're
everywhere.
everywhere. And
And
and of course, I'm thinking, how is she going to get in the house? Well, she just drives the car straight through the front wall of the house.
mm-hmm.
Actually, I think of the garage,
Mm-hmm.
and then pulls Tanya through into the house.
And that's where like one of them tries to jump at her and she like
Yeah,
catches
and see, again, I'm a sick
spine.
person
Yeah.
because it jumps on her and she just grabs it and snaps its spine, and I was like, that's cool.
Yeah, same.
Because it's not real.
Yeah, exactly.
And then Brian's Brian, Charles is seemingly dead.
Yeah.
But Mary uses some more powers that they apparently have.
Mm-hmm.
Turns on the record player upstairs.
Yeah.
And now, does she actually bring him back to life, or is she just animating his corpse?
I think at that point she's animating his corpse. She doesn't want to believe that he's dead. Wait, no, he has to be alive because doesn't he start to try and
Right, that's why I'm asking, because
yeah.
it seems like he's dead, and he seems very Weekend at Bernie's, for lack of a better term, when they're dancing.
Mm-hmm.
But then it's like something happens that brings him back, and that's when he goes full form
Mm-hmm.
and starts to do the life suck.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure exactly.
Yeah, and that comes back to that question that I had. I was like, it would have been easier if the mother could have done it, which is why I don't think she can. It would have been easier for her if it's this thing of bringing it from one to the other. She could have been the one to take the life force from Tanya and then give it to Charles.
Right.
But I don't think she can because before, when I first watched this when I was younger, and even the times after, I kept thinking it was more of a revenge thing. She wanted him to kill her because she's the one who like messed him up. But now I'm like, oh, I don't think she could. Like that's part of why she's been so adamant about all this. So yeah, yeah. Huh.
Meanwhile, Clovis is such a badass.
Mm-hmm.
The sheriff has pulled up. He's got Clovis, or no, he sees Clovis in the yard. Clovis runs up a tree, breaks a window on the second floor,
Mm-hmm.
and jumps into the house. So yeah, Tanya's able to fight off Charles. She pokes his good eye out.
Mm-hmm.
And cats start attacking Mary. I can't remember if this is, I think it's later where we get the second snap of a cat.
Yeah.
But I did like when the sheriff comes in, she throws a couple cats off of her, but there's still one on his back. And when the sheriff shoots her with the shotgun, it shoots the cat off of her back.
Yeah. And the way she turns around is just so dramatic too. Like with the yeah.
Yeah, then the sheriff and Tanya get out. Alice is coming after I keep using the actors' names. Mary is coming after them. Now what? So she grabs the sheriff, and is this when she grabs him and just throws him into the yard?
She throws him into the yard, and his like hand
goes,
and like because she has those traps in those like.
That's right. Yeah.
So she throws him into the yard, and his hand like falls on one of them, and like it snaps his hand a little bit. And so she's trying to drag Tanya out. Like she breaks the glass and is trying to drag her. And I don't remember, is she in her like beast form at this point?
She's pretty, if she's not fully beast form, she's pretty damn close.
Yeah, yeah. And so like she's trying to drag her out, and the sheriff like takes the thing and like throws it at her.
Yeah, he throws one of the traps at her and it clamps on the back of her head.
Mm-hmm. And then like he's trying to drag her back, but she takes it and she like yanks him towards her, and then she picks him up and like slams him on the gate.
The picket fence.
The picket fence, yeah, and kills him.
Ouch.
Yeah. And then is this when all the cats just.
Yeah, so she goes back after, she's going to come after Tanya, and then just a shit ton of cats jump on her.
They go for it, all of them, and they're scratching, and yep.
Tanya's trying to start the car. She's twirling around with cats, and there's smoke, and now we start seeing sparks.
Yeah.
And then she just goes up in flames.
Yep. And then, yeah. And then the last thing she like goes on there's like a one last thing of like any other good horror movie.
Of course.
She like goes on and she's like, my son, my only son.
You killed my son, my only son.
Yeah. And
then Tanya gets the car started, backs it up into a tree.
Yep.
And then jump scare-ish, she's sitting there, she's covered in blood.
Yeah, I love that.
And Clovis jumps in the window.
Yeah. And
she's like, oh, Clovis, it's just you and me now.
Yep. And she hugs him.
But my thought was, I don't think either of your parents died.
Yeah, that was a question. I know the mom's alive. Is the dad alive? I hope so. Like,
I mean, he just got hit in the face with the vase. I mean, he's cut up.
Okay, he was just out.
The mom was alive because the one state trooper helped her into the house.
No, yeah, I know the mom's alive. Yeah.
So maybe she doesn't know that though.
Yeah.
Because she's just you and me, Clovis.
Yep.
That's it.
And then Enya starts playing.
Yes.
Which is one of the creepiest songs ever. There was a time, for a long time after this, there's two songs in this movie that stand out. It's that one, and then there's a song called Sleepwalkers. It's like an old song from the 50s or 60s. And my mom and I used to listen to, my mom used to listen to this station that only plays old music. And every time that song would come on now, we'd be like, Sleepwalkers. And so, yeah, that song used to freak us out a little bit. But yeah.
Well, I am so glad that you picked this movie.
Thank you.
And that I got to watch it. Is it the greatest horror movie? No.
No.
Is it fun? My biggest criteria is, do I have fun when I'm watching it? And I did. I enjoyed. Like I said, I'm going to pick up the Blu-ray at some point. I want those special features. I'll watch this again.
Yeah.
So thank you for, I've known about it since it came out and had never seen it.
I tell you, I'm like on a mission with this movie because a lot of people that love Stephen King just have not seen this because it's not based on a book of his, and and that's the thing. I think this is one of those movies that like it's almost like a test for me because I see why some people don't like it or why like it was critically panned. It's a little, jokey or hokey or whatever, however you want to call it, and it's campy. And there, I think one critic was like, it's too comical to be horror, and I'm like, why do those things have to be mutually exclusive? But it's everything I love. I love the over the topness. I love how sick it is. I like that. I feel like they did not hold back, even with the incest thing. Like they went there, the story went there, and I just love that in any kind of story, in any kind of movie or entertainment. And yeah, like my biggest criteria is, am I being entertained? Do I feel something? And I did. I was, especially watching it as a kid, I was freaked out, and as a teenage girl watching things like that too, you're just like, Jesus, any guy could put on the charm at one point and then turn into a monster at the next, and once again, love that cat saved the day.
Yes.
Yeah.
Now, this is on IMDb trivia, so take it for what it's worth. But it does say the film was cut for an R rating after receiving 4 consecutive NC-17 ratings for violence. And it says among the violence cut was Charles removing the corkscrew from his eye and Mary spitting out the fingers she bit off Captain Soames.
Huh.
But yeah, you talked about it going there. Well, apparently they really went there and had to cut it back.
Yeah.
All right. So any final thoughts at all on Sleepwalkers?
I think that more people should watch it and give it a real chance and an open mind. And if you like, a little bit of fun with your horror, then I think this is for you.
All right, great. Well, do you have anything at all to plug?
Honestly, if you haven't read Cirque Berserk, please, get it, read it, review it. I also have a story called Welcome Home in We Are Wolves. Yep, that's it. And then I also have, I'm trying to find it. I think it's over here, maybe not. But yeah, I have a story called The Nightmare Man, and it's, I keep always forget the name of the anthology, but I think it's called, hold on. I should have looked this up before I come.
It's all right.
But I know it's by Nico Bell. She put it together, and it's a really amazing anthology.
All right, I may have this wrong. I want to say she wrote Food Fight for
She
Rewind.
did. Yeah,
okay.
She did.
And she has the new one, Retail.
Mm-hmm.
I think is her new one from Unnerving.
Yes. She has some other things coming out. Hold on, can't believe all right, guys.
That's fine. This is not the worst thing that's ever.
It's called Shiver, a chilling horror anthology. Yeah, and I'm in there. Nico Bell's in there. Tiffany Brown's in there. A lot of good people. There's some really really spooky stories in that one. So yes, definitely give that one.
I'll definitely have to check that out.
Yeah.
All right. And do you care to tell people where they can find you online?
Yes, you can find me on Twitter. It's at JustIGuess90. I also have my blog, Black Girls Guide to Horror, which hopefully I will update soon. That's about the only 2 places that I am online.
All right, great. Well, thank you once again for being here. If you could just hang out for a minute, I'll do my outro, and then yeah, I guess that's it. So, folks, thank you for watching. If you have any comments or questions, please put them in the comments below. Please like, share, and subscribe. You know, all the YouTube things. Thank you once again to my guest, Jessica Guess. And thank you, folks, for viewing. That's all we've got this time. So until next time, read more books. And